This is really an important issue. And it's a subset of the Fukushima meltdown, should we have nuclear power issue or problem or whatever. And that is the question, why do we have electric power plants? Nobody ever asked that question. It's like, well, obviously we have electric power plants because we need electricity. Well, why do you need electricity? Well, we need electricity so that, we can have a higher quality of life. Louise's grandmother, Louise remembers when her grandmother was finally talked into by the rest of the family doing away with the outhouse and building an indoor toilet in the farmhouse in rural Michigan. Her grandmother died a few years ago at the age of 97. It used to be, before Franklin Roosevelt came along and created the Rural Electrification Administration, that if you lived rurally, you had no electricity. I'm talking about the 20th century. In fact, the mid-20th century. And the reason why was because the power companies said, it's not profitable to run power all the way out to your house. We'll make all our money in the cities, where we can run a short wire and we can charge all this money. So Franklin Roosevelt came along and said, okay, here's a pile of money, run the lines. That was the REA. But the point is that we have electricity to improve the standard of our living, of the quality of our lives. Now, what's the purpose of government? Well, Thomas Jefferson said life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In other words, the quality of life. Right? Isn't that one of the roles? I mean, doesn't government have a responsibility for quality of life? We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. So there's this thing called natural monopolies. A monopoly is when there's only one provider of something, right? There's only one company that's doing this. They got a monopoly on it. If Microsoft could successfully put Apple out of business and everybody else, who offers an operating system for a computer, then, they would be a monopoly. The European Union today argues that they're a monopoly anyway, but that's a whole other thing. But a natural monopoly is something like electricity. Electricity is a natural monopoly. If there were 4 competing power companies in your town, you would not have 4 wires coming into your house. And, different days of the week, depending on who was offering what price that day, you would switch to different wires. Now you have one wire coming into your house. It's a natural monopoly. Natural monopolies are appropriately the job of government, either to provide or to very heavily regulate. Because when there's a natural monopoly, whoever controls that monopoly has us all by the neck, shall we say. You've got one electric wire coming into your house. You're paying 7 cents a kilowatt hour. They decide to charge you 40 cents a kilowatt hour. What are you going to do? Good luck. So if the purpose of providing electricity is to the general welfare, to promote happiness, then the purpose of producing electricity should be to serve the people, right? Which is why more than half of all the electricity generated in the United States is generated by publicly owned companies, by power generating stations that are owned by towns, by counties, by states, and in a couple of cases by the federal government. Which raises the question, why would you ever let a private for-profit company generate electricity? Well, because the libertarians and the Republicans have gotten around these laws in a lot of places. I was living in Portland when the city of Portland tried to buy the local electric company. And the local electric company was up for sale. It had been owned by Enron, and it was up for sale. And they put a price on it. I forget what the price was, but let's just say arbitrarily it was $100 million. And the city said, fine, we'll offer $100 million. They said, no, we refuse to sell it to you. We will only sell it to a for-profit company. It was bizarre. I was there. I was on the radio every day talking about it. And the company won. City tried to sue them. It got sold to another company. They wouldn't sell it to the city, period. They didn't want it to go public. Bad precedent. Right? The industry didn't want it to go public. So, which brings us around to nuclear power. If the purpose of generating electricity is to serve the public good, then why would you generate electricity, regardless of how profitable it might be, in a way that could possibly threaten the public good? Why would you generate electricity in a way that could lead to a Chernobyl or a Fukushima? This is the question that the Germans were asking themselves 12 years ago. Back about 5 years ago, his last name was Hess. I forget his first name. I want to say Herman, but I know that that's the author. Anyhow, one of the two German legislators who introduced the legislation that produced all the fact that about a third of all the German houses now have solar panels on their roofs, and that during this last August there were some days when over half of the electricity in Germany was generated from people's houses' roofs. That legislator and I co-keynoted a conference in Barcelona, Spain. Louise and I spent a week in Barcelona. Boy, that's a cool city, by the way. In any case, and he made the point in his speech that they knew that Germany was going to need a couple of megawatts more of electricity, and that meant they have got coal, but there'd been pretty much a moratorium on building more coal-fired power plants because they couldn't deal with the pollution. And it was getting very, very expensive to scrub that exhaust stack down to the point where it was clean enough to meet European standards. And they didn't have any oil, and they don't have much natural gas. And so what are they going to do? They've been building nuclear power plants since the 50s or the 60s. And so they were going to have to build a couple more nukes. And he said, why do that? The people don't like it, and it represents a potential threat, and it produces a waste product that we don't even yet know how to deal with. We don't have a solution for nuclear waste. So why do this? Why not put solar panels on people's roofs? And so he introduced this legislation. And I think that's the strongest argument against nuclear power of all, is that if you look at the nuclear power stations in the United States, there's a few that are publicly owned, but the vast majority of them are privately owned. It's a for-profit business. And it's a for-profit business that only exists because it's subsidized by you and me, the Price-Anderson Act. The federal government insures nuclear power plants because Lloyd's of London refuses to. If you build a nuclear power plant in the United States, you cannot buy insurance that fully covers that plant for any kind of disaster. You can't buy it. No insurance company in the world will sell it to you. Now, that in and of itself should tell you that this is not necessarily the smartest way to go. But just think of it in these terms. And this is, we don't have these conversations in America anymore. These are the conversations that used to happen during the era of Nixon and Kennedy. The debate about the public good and whose responsibility it was and where it lay and how it should be executed. If the goal of producing power is to promote life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, to promote the public welfare, the general welfare of the public, then do you do that with nuclear power? Or do you do that with coal? Or do you do that with solar and wind? Shouldn't the answer be fairly obvious? If we started asking these deeper and more fundamental questions, if we started using these larger frames, frankly, I think a lot of our policies would change, and for the better. So anyhow, end of rant.